Hey everyone, it's Movie Mike, and today I want to talk about the movie 7 Psychopaths. The story takes place in Hollywood. Two gangsters are waiting for Angela, a girl who their boss wants them to take care of. But suddenly, someone known as Psychopath number 1 shows up and kills them. There's a mysterious person wearing a red mask who leaves two Joker playing cards next to the bodies. But this story is about more than just psychopaths. The main character is Marty, a screenwriter and a heavy drinker. His agent keeps bugging him for the script he promised. He spends days with his friend Billy, who's an actor but often gets into fights and doesn't stay on set for long. Billy makes money by stealing dogs. He targets unsuspecting owners, lures the dogs away with meat, and then hands them over to his partner Hans. After a while, Hans returns the pets to their owners for a reward. Hans is 60 years old and has a wife named Myra, who recently had surgery for cancer. Meanwhile, Marty is working on a screenplay titled 7 Psychopaths, but so far, he only has the title and one character, a Buddhist, who fights evil. Billy gives him a great idea for the script. He shows Marty a newspaper article about the murder of two mafia members. The killer, known as the Joker, could be a psychopathic hero in the story. Thinking about the future of the screenplay, Marty recalls a story about a Quaker. His daughter went missing, and when they found her, it was too late. A year later, the killer confesses to the crime. The culprit asks for the death penalty, but the judge sentences him to life in prison instead. After serving many years in prison, the man is released because he repented for the murder. He hopes to live the remainder of his life in happiness and peace. However, due to the constant haunting image of the girl's father, he begins to lose his mind. Eventually, he decides to end his own life to escape the Quaker's torment in hell. But the old man follows him even there, and just like the killer, the Quaker does the same thing. The Quaker is revealed to be Psychopath number 2. Now let's introduce Psychopath number 3, Mr. Charlie Costello. He is determined to kill anyone responsible for stealing his beloved dog, Bonnie. Charlie is ruthless and won't spare anyone, whether it's the girl who was walking his dog or the heartless scammers profiting from pet theft. Meanwhile, the scammers are occupied with their own affairs and pay no attention to another psychopath. Hans spends time with his wife, engaging in deep conversations about God and questioning his seemingly irrational actions towards humanity. Billy, on the other hand, prepares for a party at Marty's place, adjusting his tie and having a chat with Bonnie, the very same dog that Mr. Costello is willing to go to extreme lengths to protect. At the party, Billy and Marty argue because the screenwriter refuses to credit his friend as a co-author, even though it was Billy who shared the story about the Quaker. In his drunken state, the screenwriter's mind comes up with another psychopath for the story, a Vietnamese man seeking revenge on Americans for the war they unleashed. The next morning, Marty wakes up with a hangover on his friend's couch. The girl has kicked him out of the house. He reads about psychopaths in the local newspaper. It turns out that Billy placed an ad there, searching for psychos whose stories are worthy of being in a future film. While the friends are looking for psychopaths, one of Costello's gangsters is on the lookout for them. The henchman tracks down Hans as he hands over a dog to a new owner. With a weapon in hand, the henchman threatens Hans to reveal the location of the dogs. Armed bandits break into the kennel. A frightened Marty doesn't understand what's happening. After inspecting the cages, the bandits don't find their boss's pet. Marty, facing a machine gun, is about to reveal Billy's address. But in that moment, Psychopath number 1, wearing a red mask, bursts into the room. Swiftly and precisely, he kills the gangsters, leaving behind his signature, 2 Joker playing cards. Billy suggests tracking down the Joker and convincing him to help deal with the gangsters. Meanwhile, Costello searches the kennel and discovers a letter from the hospital where Hans's wife is receiving treatment. Simultaneously, a man named Zach responds to the newspaper ad. He shares his story with Marty. In his youth, Zach broke into a judge's house with the intention of robbing it. In the basement, Zach stumbled upon 3 young black girls who were chained up. One of the girls, Maggie, revealed to Zach all the dark secrets of the corrupt judge. When the judge returned home, he was furious. Zach and Maggie saw an opportunity for revenge and came up with a plan to travel across the country and kill people who harm others. Maggie became cruel and merciless in her killings, while Zach began to question the morality of their actions. After another act of vengeance, Zach decided to leave it all behind. Now he longs for Maggie and wants to send her a message through a film. So 2 more psychopaths, Zach and Maggie, join the list. While Marty listens to Zach's story, Costello goes to the hospital to see Hans's wife. The gangster intends to intimidate her into revealing Hans's whereabouts. However, when he realizes that she won't betray her husband, he kills her. Meanwhile, Billy entertains himself with a girl who happens to belong to Costello. He didn't steal the dog just for fun. He did it to help Angela. The gangster cares more about his dog than he does for her. Having stolen the dog, Billy has gained a place in Costello's heart. Angela is terrified and pleads with Billy to return the dog, but Billy won't back down until he receives a large sum of money or eliminates the gangster. Angela calls Costello to reveal everything. Billy tries to stop her, but in that moment, Hans calls with news of his wife's death. The vengeance of the Jack of Diamonds swiftly catches up to its victim. Billy, also known as Psycho Number 1, kills Angela and places a playing card in her hand. Costello and his assistant drive to Billy's location. Our psychopath is one step ahead. He takes Marty, Hans, and Bonnie from their home, and they head to the desert. Billy discovers from his friend's diary how much his friend believes in him and wants to help write the screenplay. Costello is devastated. He can't find his beloved pet. He soon discovers that the kidnapper is none other than the Jack of Diamonds. Billy asks Marty for help with the screenplay. Sitting in a bar, Marty begins telling Hans a story about a Quaker. However, Hans already knows the ending. It's the story of his own life. Everything happened as they were told. Except Hans didn't go to hell. Doctors saved his life. The men set up camp in the desert and brainstorm ideas for the future screenplay. Among all the fictional psychopaths they've imagined, Hans is particularly fascinated by the Vietnamese character. He walks around dressed as a pastor, carrying a revolver in his hand. After the war, as an exceptional warrior, he returned home hoping to live in peace with his family. But it turns out his wife and daughter are no longer there, and now he wants revenge. He has already killed 6 people, and for the others, he has prepared a bomb to detonate at the conference on the outcome of the Vietnam War, and Marty wants to make the ending a spectacular show of vengeance. However, Hans wants to create his own version. In the evening, Billy presents his version of the screenplay, a shootout in the cemetery where all the psychopaths gather. Marty captures everything on camera. Suddenly, it starts to rain, and Marty's ex-girlfriend appears. She deeply regrets kicking him out, but before they can reconcile, gangsters kill her. Witnessing this, Marty becomes a psychopath like the others. Only Marty and Hans survive. The Jack of Diamonds is gravely wounded, but he manages to finish off Charlie. The Jack of Diamonds dies alongside his friends. To avoid upsetting Billy, they praise him for the complexity of the plot. While out on a shopping trip, Marty notices a newspaper article about Billy, suspecting him of all the murders committed by the Jack of Diamonds. They realize that Billy is, in fact, a psychopath. Sitting by the campfire in the desert, the men have a conversation. Marty asks Billy why he killed all those people. Billy reveals that he wanted Marty to have something to write about. He no longer needs any help with the story. Marty asks Billy to leave. But psychopaths always act unexpectedly. Billy sets their car on fire and calls Costello to come and retrieve his dog. Hans decides to leave his friends and departs. After a fight, the friends reconcile and await a grand shootout together. Costello arrives as planned, but without any weapons. He only has a signal pistol in his car. Billy, suspicious of Costello's intentions, shoots him in the back. However, Marty can't just leave him there and rushes him to the hospital. Meanwhile, Costello's accomplices wait for him near the store where Hans appears. Recognizing him, one of the accomplices orders Hans to raise his hands. Before a fight breaks out, a police car arrives, interrupting the scuffle. Disappointed that the shootout didn't go as planned, Billy questions the need for the signal pistol. He fires a rocket launcher into the air as a signal for the accomplices to take action. The gangsters notice the signal and prepare to join their boss, leaving Hans behind. As Hans tries to reach for a dictaphone, one of the gangsters shoots him. The gangsters flee, pursued by the police. The gangsters reach the location of the final showdown first. Billy, armed and waiting, takes them out one by one. Costello threatens to kill Marty, and Billy puts down his weapon. Emerging from behind the rocks, Billy holds a rocket launcher, and Bonnie, his dog. Costello offers to spare Marty's life if Billy hands over the dog. Marty leaves, and Costello shoots and kills Billy. However, dogs have a sense for good people. Bonnie stays by Billy's side, even extending her paw towards him. The gangsters are apprehended by the police. Marty hides away from the scene of the shootout. He gets into the car and realizes that his friends are no longer with him. Marty heads to Hans, who is standing nearby, and notices a dictaphone. The recording is for Marty. It contains the ending for the story about the Vietnamese man. The man wants to detonate a bomb, but can't bring himself to do it. With a match in his hand, he closes his eyes and opens them in a different place. The Vietnamese man, dressed as a Buddhist monk, sits in the square, soaked in gasoline. He becomes the first monk in history to self-immolate as a protest against war. The Vietnamese man chooses light over darkness and revenge. Having gathered enough ideas, Marty finishes writing the script. He now lives in Billy's house with Bonnie. After all he's been through, Marty is no longer afraid of anything. He's not worried that Zach, the psychopath, will come after him because the screenwriter forgot to include his phone number in the credits. Marty is ready to face any challenges in life with dignity because he has nothing left to lose. And this is where our story ends. Thank you for watching the video until the end. Your likes and comments greatly help the channel grow. Thank you, friends, and see you in the next video.